Alright, this is going to be a separate video just by itself, okay? This is going to be making sense of the wiring mess, okay? Now, the vector system sits just inside like this with an adhesive on the other side of the belly, okay? It sits there just like this, with all these labeled straight wires that are hardwired into the vector. That are all labeled. Okay, it is throttle, rudder, S-bus, aileron, and elevator. Okay. Now, remember I said you had that flap servo, then that lead. Okay, you went ahead and hooked those up. All right. Well, you fished them through. Go ahead, okay, let all this stuff then, go ahead and take that vector system out, no big deal, not going to hurt, you can always hook it, you can always, you just got to put it back into the way it is. Find your flap servo, lead, okay. You need to have a tool like this, that has a hook on it, okay, or go get them wire, actually that'd be better, short, go get them wire. These are just things that you get over years of doing this kind of stuff. You start gathering tools and you don't let go. And what this is, it's just a short, simple wire with a hook on it. Now I'm going to bend it just a little bit, okay? Because I want to fish these through that came through the wing one at a time. Okay? And right now, I want the flap. Okay, so there's my hook, there's my flap, okay, hook that through there, just like that. This actually, you're thinking, boy, this is awfully complicated. And actually it's not. It actually isn't. But this gives you an appreciation. It really does. Is this not necessarily, could be a little bit better of a design? Yeah, it could. Alright, so there's that flap wire. Okay, so what I want with that flap wire now is I want my receiver. I'm going to go ahead and get it hooked up because it's going to go directly from the plane to your receiver. I'm going to be using an AR620. That's going to go into channel 6 because channel 6 is aux 1. The first aux is like aux 0, that's your no, actually, I guess that would be aux 2. But anyway, flaps. So channel 6 for flaps. You're going to go light side up. The light side of the wire goes to the top of the receiver. And I just want to get that in there just to get it out of the way. All right. Now, from the back of the vector, I'm going to take this one that says S-bus. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way. And I'm going to plug it into my, what would normally be my gear channel, okay. Back of the receiver. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and grab my rudder, plug it to the back of the receiver. Okay. That's channel 4. Rudder's channel 4. Okay. I'm going to grab my elevator, which will be channel 3, from the back of the vector, plug it right into my receiver, and then channel 2, which will be ailerons. Okay, plug that in. Then I'll put my throttle from the back of the vector in there. Okay. Now, this has thrust reverse. Okay. Now, well, you know what? I have a 7-channel receiver, and I can show you how to use thrust reverse too. You have to use a different receiver, but that's okay. Alright, this is a 7-channel Lumen RX. 7-channel. Alright, we'll do the exact same thing. It works the same way. Spectrum protocol. Okay? Alright, we just do that way. Okay, channel 1. So this one. Alright, channel 6 is for my flaps. Okay. There. And S bus into channel 5, which would normally be my gear. Now I'll put the rudder into channel 4. Okay. And then I'll put my elevator into channel 3. Okay. And ailerons into channel 2. Throttle into channel 1. Okay. And then that little yellow pigtail that's on the throttle cable that's going to the other side of the vector, I'm going to put it in the very top port of the receiver. Okay, so here's what that looks like when you got it all hooked up. Okay, all the light wires are on the top of the receiver. Okay, now I'm going to take this receiver. I'm just going to get it out of the way. So we still have to deal with everything coming out of these wings because we've got to hook it to the other side of the vector. All we've got to hook up from this point on is all the lights and the ailerons. Okay? Because if you look down here, what's left? I've got those two single wires that aren't labeled. Remember I said those are going to be your ailerons. So I'm going to go ahead, unplug it from the back of the vector. Oh, it's just glued to it. Okay. That just came glued. All right, make sure I get that glued back the right way. All right, make sure you go. Remember, always, no matter what it is, the light wire is always going to go to the top. Okay, so that's aileron. I'm going to unplug my aileron Y. I'm going to find these two individual, they're non-labeled wires. These are my ailerons. I'm going to put them, plug them in to this provided Y. Okay. Oh, got that one turned around. Okay. Now, those are plugged into that provided Y. So that is one lead for my ailerons. I'm going to take my go get 'em wire, fish that down there like that, grab a hold of my, come on now, get a hold of my, when we get down with this, all we got left is lights. Provided I can get a hold of that go get 'em wire. Okay. I'll hook that through there. That. And bring that back up through there like that. Okay. Then I'm going to hook that back into the front of the vector system. It goes right there where it's labeled aileron. Okay. With the light side up. Okay, so now got my vector, everything's hooked in the vector, everything's hooked up to the receiver. The only thing left is this weird pigtail that says gear. Well, you say, well, you don't have retracts, why has it got a gear? They're using this as a way to get power to all these lights. Okay, that's all these lights. You're going to have all these little lights hanging down here. Let me get a hold of them here. They got pulled through just now. Alright. Come on, guys, where are you? Alright, well, anyways, I'm going to get all three of them, hook them into this, and then I'll mount everything up. And I'll show you what I did. Hold on just a second. Alright, once you get all three of them red and black wires identified, get them all taken out, okay? You're going to find that little three-way plug that's off the vector, and you're going to start plugging these in to these lights. This is just for lights, okay? And you see the dark side, well, the dark side of the black is what's going to light up. It should pop into place. Okay. On each one of these. This is what's called locking clamps. That should lock them all in there. If one of your lights is not working, that means it came undone, which would be a pain in the butt. But you can appreciate all this stuff when they're going to be done at the factory for you by a person. Okay, so then you got all three of your wires hooked up. Go get them wire. You know, be nice if they included something like this. For this kind of an application, they should have given us a tool. Okay. There's no way none of us here in the States have this little bit of hands to be able to handle that. Okay. Pull that on through. Okay. And that's going to hook back into the one plug on the vector that actually says gear, because all that is just for power. Okay, it's just for power. Just powering the lights is all it's doing. You don't actually have retracts. All right, so now at this point, everything is actually done. Okay, as far as hooking up electronically, just got to find the best way of fishing all this crap back in here, excuse me, to where it doesn't bind on itself or pull on itself. Okay, so let me clean up my wire, and everybody has their own way of this. Some people just shove stuff in there, but you got to get that vector mounted back in there correctly, but on the inside. Okay, with these wires going towards these wires. I think it was like that. Uh-oh. I hope it's like that. Well, I'll know immediately if it goes everything's opposite. And if that's the case, if you pull it, it was just easier to pull this out. If it's supposed to be this way, if everything's opposite, in other words, the elevators and rudders are all opposite, then pull it out and put it this way. If not, it's going to go this way. So, let me get my receiver mounted out of the way, which I'll put that on the side over there. Alright, let me get everything mounted, and I got a 50-50 chance I got it right, so. Hello, this is back after RC. This is the Arrows RC SKYCRUISER 1400mm. Formerly known as the FMS Skytrainer 182. I'm sorry, that's what it is. It's the same material, same mold, same everything. And FMS owns Arrows RC, or at least they're like sister companies or whatever. But a lot of your FMS parts will fit your Arrows parts, and your Arrows parts will fit your FMS parts. I don't know if y'all know that or not. But anyways, this is going to be the radio set. Now, you watched my wiring mess video, which is an offshoot off of the build video, which I explained all the wiring, and that leads into this video. Now, you do not need to provide any leads or any Ys. Everything's provided for you. Okay. You have one long Y, those two ailerons that you're going to fish that through. Okay. You're going to hook that into the back of the vector. Okay. You're going to have one long Y that is provided, that's plugged into the vector, that has your a 3-prong for gear. Okay, that's actually for lights. Okay, and that's going to be those 3 red and black lights. You're going to plug that into those 3 prongs, and that's going to go back into the back of the vector in the actually into the gear part of the vector, in the very back of the vector. Okay, and that's because that just provides power. That's all that does. Other than that, you have a loose Y for the flaps that are already provided, and I already show you hook that up to your wings and feed all that through. Feed everything through to the front, okay, where the battery is, okay, and go ahead, I want to show you something, and just go ahead and take the vector out. Just pay attention to how you take it out, It's only double-sided taped in there. And just take it out, okay? Take all your stuff through here, bring all those wires through here, hook up all your Ys that I just talked to you about, and then fish, it's just easier to do it this way, then fish them through to here where you've got the Victor hanging out, okay? And then once you get them all plugged into the Vector, to the back of the Vector, which is now on this end, okay, the Vector is going to be mounted on the upper wall where you can actually see the Vector there. You can actually see it. That's the top of the Vector looking down at you. On all this side here is the default wires that are hardwired on the Vector that swing around and are being fed into my receiver. Now the only thing that goes directly from your model to your receiver is that flaps. Those flaps, the flaps, that goes directly to your channel 6 on your receiver, because that's your flap channel. Okay, that's where that goes. And hold on, I think I got a wire getting loose there. Okay, we're good. Then everything else goes to the Vector system, and then back to the other thing that goes directly to your receiver. If you're going to use a 7-channel receiver, you'll have to have a 7-channel receiver in order to take advantage of thrust reverse, okay? Because you're going to need the other 6 channels for everything else. Okay, now before we go into that, let's go over CG. The book says that CG is 60 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing. Well, that puts it about ½ an inch behind this strut. Well, I find that to be really wrong. It's more about 70 millimeters back on that back here where this tape is. Okay, I've got a 2700 3S. Okay, I've got it as far forward as I could possibly get it, and that's putting that CG. You know, they're telling you to put a 2200 in here. Well, if you put a 2200 in there on the CG mark, it's going to be very tail heavy, okay? And they want it all the way forward. So you can't go any further to prevent tail heavy. And I don't like adding weight to a model if I absolutely don't have to. So with a 2700 all the way forward, CG is actually more about 70 millimeters back, and you can see that puts it just a little bit further back than what I just showed you. Okay, more on that tape line, and that's where CG is just fine. Okay, now, so CG is really 60 to 70 millimeters back, depending on the weight of your batteries. If you happen to have a 2200, or you can probably put up to a 3000, there's plenty of room. If you can get it all the way forward and CG is just fine right behind them struts, then you're golden. But you're going to find that you're going to have a heavier battery and try to go as far forward as you can in order to get that CG just right. Okay, so about 70 millimeters back, honestly. Let's see, where am I at? Okay, right there. And by the way, this is the Hobby King CG machine. $14.95 at Hobby King, but trying to catch it on where they have it for sale anywhere is almost impossible. Well, anyways, that's a different story. Okay, but she's CG that's 60 to 70 millimeters back from the leading edge. Okay, 3S only. I have, if you have that 7th channel, you can program that to whatever auxiliary 1. I put mine on auxiliary 2, and I chose switch C because this is where I like to put braking at. Okay, auxiliary 1 is going to be reserved for flaps. Okay, that's where flaps channel, and then gear is going to be, I assign that to my B switch, which is where I'm running the I put on a 3-position switch. That's where I'm running the vector system. Okay, and with the vector system, it automatically by default gives you 3 settings, and I have yet, no matter what 3-position switch I put in, the position 0, or the ones furthest away from you, is always going to be the self-level. You can see, remove the CG machine out of the way. I'll put it into self-level mode. Look at that elevator. Okay, watch my ailerons. See how they're holding their position? Okay, the middle position is what it is. Well, hold on. The middle position is no gyro, in other words, manual mode, and then the position 1 or position 2 is AS3X, in other words, the wind gyro, and that is not. So the bottom farthest away is safe. Middle is manual. In other words, you have no kind of help at all, just straight you in the plane. And then the further position, or the one I go with closer to me, is my AS3X. So, okay, or wind mitigation, which it's just wind gyro. Okay. I picked my rates as 100% throws over 30% expo for high, low rate of 70% throws over 30% expo, with a mid rate of 85 over 30% expo. And let me show you what that looks like graphically on the plane. Okay. All right. This is my low rates. Okay, low rate aileron. That's 70%. 70% elevator. 70% rudder. Okay. Mid rates is 85. High rates is 100. Okay. With 30% expo all the way around. All right. Nice. Channel D is my flaps. Now, flaps up.
Takeoff flaps.
That's takeoff flaps, which on a spectrum, that's position 1, and that's at a positive 50%. And then landing flaps is a positive 100%. And I have no elevator to flat mix as of yet because I have the flight mode enabled. And what that means is that whenever I pull down to say landing flaps, okay, and I'm flying along and she starts to balloon on me, then I know that I need to counteract with down elevator. And I will continue to counteract with down elevator until she levels out and just starts slowing on me. And then wherever I stop that at, that locks that value into that flight mode, so it knows that when I put in landing flaps, that much elevator, down elevator is needed. Or if she starts to dive, then I will hold in up elevator on the trim, on my trim, not the thing, but on the trim, until she levels out. And when she levels out, I'll take my finger off the trim. That flight mode then records that. So it just depends. Now, if you put in landing flaps and she starts to dive and she starts to go to say the right a little bit, well, then you can put the right about a little bit of aileron trim or a rudder trim to straighten that out, and you can put a little bit of the elevator in to straighten that out. And when she's straightened out, and then you stop trimming, then it records that value. That way when you go, so whatever the plane does in that situation, whatever it does, it's going to record. That's the value of flight modes. Again, that's just a simplistic explanation. BD Tennessee does a much better video on that. I'll include the link. If you look at my videos on the FMS 1500 Cessna, I have links to on his videos on how to do flight modes. And flight modes for elevator to flat mix, and that's what I'll be using. I've learned how to do it enough, but not well enough to teach you. I still would rather refer you to BD Tennessee's video on that. The only other thing really now is get her out and fly her. I've gone over rates, I've gone over CG, I've gone over flight modes as far as elevator to flat mix. Now, what I will do is, what I might do is go ahead and take off and take off flaps, and if she gently lifts off and I don't have any elevator in, then I can be able to tell you that it's just 50% flaps with no elevator mix. But if she still balloons or dives a little bit, with takeoff flaps. Then I'll go ahead and I'll do a general rating, and I'll let you know what that is. It just, to me, flight modes are just easier to use now that I've learned how to use them. I'm not really good at explaining them. So, but I'll try some basic. I will tell you a little trick, little cheat code for flight for planes like this. Usually, takeoff flaps is 11% elevator, down elevator, and landing is 22% down elevator. So try that, and that's usually a good for a normal high wing like this. You can try that. Put 11% down elevator for takeoff, and then put negative 20 or down elevator 22% on spectrum for landing. But that's with full flaps and then half flaps. Okay, half flaps for takeoff, full flaps for landing. That's like a good starting point, and then you have to just manually. Okay, well, I'm doing landing flaps right now, and I got the 22% like he said, but she still wanted to balloon a little bit, so I'll have to land it and manually change it, say to 28%, and then take off again and see. And that's the old-fashioned way of doing it. With the flight mode, the advantage of flight modes is you can figure that out with only having to take off one time, and you can do it in the first flight and then lock in those values. So it all depends on how you want to do it. Be careful with your ESC. My ESC was reversed, so all you have to do, that means when I gave it throttle, I had reverse thrust. Okay, well, I didn't even have the reverse thing plugged in yet. So I remove the cowl. Oh yeah, and I remember I showed you to hook up that rudder or that nose gear to go ahead and take the cowl. Good thing I did that, because that made it very easy for me to pull my ESC, and I just switched two wires, two of those wires, and now I got proper thrust. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. We've gone over my rates, we've gone over CG, we've gone over. Let me show you how I picked those switches for vector and how I did that. So you'll understand. This is on Spectrum now. This isn't gonna help you for any other system. But a lot of people use Spectrum, so all right. Go ahead and go to System Setup. Don't worry, the model's not gonna go anywhere. Okay, and go to Channel Assign. Okay. Now, the gear. Go ahead and put gear on B or whatever 3-position switch you like to use. Okay. Aux1 should be knocked out for your flaps, and then aux2 is what I'm using for my braking, okay, for the reverse thrust. So I'm going to leave gear assigned to the gear part is hardwired as the port assignment to gear, but it's set to aux2, which aux2 I have set on my B switch. Okay, aux1 is set on my B switch. Okay, or the gear channel. I'm sorry, the gear channel is set to my B switch so that I can operate the 3 levels. aux1 is flap, and then aux2 is aux2, and I have that set to, if you look back, I have aux2 set to my C. That gives me the reverse thrust. Okay, and show that again. Gear, I picked B to run the 3 levels. And for aux2, I picked C for reverse thrust, and aux1 is already knocked out for flaps. Okay. Again, gear, leave gear to gear. Switch it, making it whatever 3-position switch you want to operate the 3 levels of the vector. Flaps is going to be aux1, and then aux2 is for that thrust reverse. Again, you're going to have a 7-channel receiver in order to get a reverse thrust. Okay. Now, to show you what my rates look like on a Spectrum, I have them on channel G, which is, or my switch G, a 3-position. I have at 100% or high rates at 100.
Mid rates, low rates,
and the same thing for the elevator and ailerons. Okay, the flap system, so you can graphically look at it. Okay, I have a 2 second deployment. For takeoff is 50%, landing is 100%. And look at that, what that looks like.
Takeoff flaps, Landing flaps.
Landing flaps.
Flaps up.
Okay, other than that, I have a timer set for 5 minutes, and I've got all my audio prompts keyed in. So, and that's a whole different subject there. There are dozens of videos on how to make audio prompts, and I've got one too. My throttle cut is set on H.
Motors armed.
Okay.
Prop secured.
Okay, and I got
braking.
Cruise mode for going forward.
Landing flaps.
Throw on the flaps.
Safe mode.
Safe mode, which would be the stabilization, or what they call stabilize or stability mode. And then they've got their
Manual.
Well, I've got my audios backwards. This is AS3X. Okay, and then you've got your manual mode.
AS3.
I need to change my audio. Call out for that because I got it backwards. But that's pretty much it, folks. The only thing to do is take it out to the field and fly her. Now, with the vector system, unfortunately, you cannot, like you can do with forward programming, you cannot go in there and adjust the gains. You can assign it to like a roller and adjust the gains up or down. And you say, well, what is that? Well, that is when you have your gains, which means is that's how far your control surfaces reacts with the gyro to outside forces. In other words, you're flying along and the wind hits it. Well, that wasn't you that caused the plane to go off to one side. The wind did that. Well, the computer knows that, and then instantaneously auto-corrects for that to get that plane to fly, to react and buffer against that wind, this wind mitigation, so that light little plane still flies good. It all happens instantaneously and a lot quicker than you can do it. Well, the gains is the amount of correction that computer is putting that plane into. If you have too much correction, the gains are too high, then when you're flying along, she might start oscillating on you and just looking really stupid. Especially if you're going too fast, she starts oscillating, the gains are too high. Okay, if you're flying along and it gets windy and she's just going all over the place, you're thinking, well, she should be flying better than that, then your gains are set too low. With this system, you're not able to adjust the gains. It's a simplistic gyro. Okay, it's meant for be beginner friendly, not to make it too complicated. And it's got a nice mid-range in there, so where it shouldn't oscillate unless you get this thing going a lot faster than it was designed to. And it should stay good in mild wind. It's just somewhat strong wind. Unless you're flying into wind you shouldn't be flying it, then it's not going to be able to compensate for that. But then again, you shouldn't be flying anyway. So it's got that kind of a middle ground gyro. She was fairly trim out of the book, but then again, oh yeah, that's the other thing. Once I got her all hooked up, you saw in the build how I hooked how I put all the control arms on, and I said I would show you how to center the servo. Well, basically all that means is that instead of actually hooking these two parts together, hooking the servo to the control surface, I powered on the servo, got everything powered up, got the plane all bound, and that means that servo now was in its center position. So then I can hook up my rod, my control arm, or push rod, pull rod, whatever you want to call it, and hook it to the control arm where I like a lot of throws, so I have mine set to almost the furthest hole in. Now, if you want less throws and less movement, you go further out, but I like almost all the way next hole in. And then you just move this clevis, you screw it in, screw it out, back and forth until you have this to where you hook it up, and the whole thing is then level. The whole piece is level with the frame. Okay, and that's the same principle on all control surfaces. You hook them all up the same way. Once you get the servo is leveled or is centered, you got it on, it's in a center position, then you can hook up your push rod or your control rod, pull rod, whatever you want to call it, and then hook it up to the control arm, and then hook it up to where it's like I like to call bench level. In other words, everything is bench trim, bench level. You truly do not know if a plane is trimmed or in trim or out of trim until you put her in the air. I don't care how good you are at centering your servos and making everything it visually looks great. Every plane is different, every plane is like a different child. You can have two planes from the same manufacturer, you know, they have the same battery, and you got the same radio, and you got it set the same way, and they both may fly slightly different. You think, well, how is that possible? Well, this wing may have set in the foam in the mold a little bit longer, and it has a slight more of a curve to it that we can't see with the naked eye. But when the plane is going at 70 miles, 40, 50 miles an hour in the air, that little bit of deviation in the change on the shape of that wing that we can't see will make itself known in the air. And little imperfections, little quirks, they're man-made. Every single one of these planes are going to fly different. Then you could take a clone of that plane, the same kind of plane, give it to somebody else, and it's going to fly a little bit different, because planes are like children. They're like friends. You know, you may have friends all from the same area, and they all have the same silver backgrounds, but everyone's an individual. That's one of the attraction of RC planes. My MiG may fly different than your MiG, you know, but we can fly them together, and that's why I got to get know mine. You got to get to know yours. And well, anyways, that's just a whole different subject. But we're going to get her out hopefully this afternoon, get you the maiden. Not going to do a performance flight. I'm not expecting any real speed. I might put the performance analyzer in there somewhere just for giggles, just to see how fast she goes. But then again, this plane has a very short spar. That spar only goes to right there, okay? And then you've got the wing struts here, and then you've got just bare foam all the way out. So this is not designed for that suddenly, you know, snap rolls and all that. I mean, it'll do some aerobatics, basic, big rolls, you know, nice loops, you know, maybe a cute, crazy Cuban or something, you know, but maybe a little bit of a hammerhead. But it's not going to do snap rolls or anything. You don't want to put too much pressure on these wings, because basically from this point out, that's just bare foam. There is no spar in there, okay? And this is meant to do mild aerobatics, to cruise around, Sunday flyer, a great trainer, to give a new pilot and confidence and say, hey, I'm just enjoying flying, or man, I'm actually flying a plane and I'm having fun with it, and it's a scaled, good-looking plane, and she's got lights and all that. Timer set for 5 minutes. I'm thinking probably could get 7 to 10 minutes for throttle management on 2700, but 2200 is solid 5 minutes for sure. And there you go. All right, folks. Well, thank you for watching. This is Fat Guy Flies RC. I can't wait to get her out in the field this afternoon and give you a couple of flights on her, and we'll see what we think. All right, y'all have a good. Don't forget to like and subscribe. God bless you. Hobby Zone, thank you again. I'm sorry I was late on getting those videos out. I know you sent me the plane way before the release date of July 3rd, but I was out of state. I was actually up in Arkansas, and so I couldn't get home so in time to get this out. But I got it out now. All right, y'all have a good one. God bless you. I gotta turn this off.